A very, very warm welcome back to the Lead2Xceed chat with me, Henry Baye. Over the last 3 chats, we've been talking to Mr. Christian Diaba, a certified performance and executive coach who has had the experience of working with leaders across industries and across many nations. We're really pleased that we still have Mr. Christian Diaba back on the platform. And today we're going to explore something that's very important to leaders. Christian has been working with leaders over many, many years, and I have a pertinent question for him. So welcome back to Lead2Xceed, Christian.
Thank you very much, Henry. It's great to be back.
Thank you very much. It's always nice to have you back. So I have a big question for you today.
Go for
Having
it.
been working with leaders across industries and across countries and so on, I believe that you would have picked up some topical things or topical issues that leaders need to be aware of to be successful, right? So what are those in your mind?
Once again, thank you, Henry. Just so people would remember, there, of course, the number of thoughts I would want to say around this topic, because really, I do this every day, and definitely I should be picking some thoughts around that. I wanted us to focus on 2 words so we can remember. One is card, the other is bucket.
2 very unrelated words.
Yeah.
What are those?
Great. The card really is an acronym, CARD.
Okay.
And I'll talk about that very quickly, and then we can deal with the bucket.
So let me see what card you're going to pull out first.
This is what we have to remember. There's so much happening today. Our world today is almost living on the sensational. But one thing that is so crucial is change.
Change.
So in CARD, first letter C is for change. As a leader, you must be aware of how prevalent change is today. It is not just change in the environment, it's also change with regards to you. With you, what are the things that are changing? What are the things that must change? And so be mindful of change. Change, we say, is the only thing that does not change. Yeah? And so be mindful of change. Our response to change is what is the A, which is agile. And I'm not talking about agile as a methodology, because there's the agile methodology. I'm talking about agile as a way of our response to change. Being mindful of change is one thing. Being able to respond to change in a manner that places you at an advantage is another thing. So agility is so important. We must be cautious not to get stuck on this is how we used to do it and this is how we will keep doing it. Because if that happens and we take that positioning, with time, you would very easily realize that change has changed you. In dealing with change and responding with agility is my next letter, which is R, resilience. Resilience requires that there are times when you have to just keep your shoulder to the wheel and keep going, even when it doesn't make sense. Because there are times when, as a leader, you're going to walk alone. It gets lonely sometimes. You've got to have the comfort and give yourself permission to keep going, even when to others it doesn't make sense, but you're seeing a clarity of how you're going. However, there are times when how you deal with agility and resilience will tell the difference between being persistent and being blind stubborn. Which takes me to the last letter, D. You know, and it's very much my foundation, the divine. And I use D for the divine in terms of the fact that we must be aware that the world is not only based on the physical.
Yep.
So as a person of faith, as a Christian, I am very clear that I am not validated by what I have, what I own, or what I have achieved, but I'm validated by somebody greater than me, which is God. A leader must be very clear on what their source is, whatever source they connect to outside of themselves. We all must be mindful of a higher source than us. And so that's CAD. So every single leader must keep in mind the importance of recognizing change, the awareness of change, agility to respond to change in a meaningful manner, resilience, holding on and pushing even when it doesn't make sense, but you're clear that's heading in a direction, and then the divine.
Interesting. You know, and talking about the divine just reminds me of something we dealt with on Lead2Xceed, which is purpose, right? Because purpose is always about connecting to that higher reason why you are here and why you do things. I'm really very curious, though, because you mentioned card and bucket. I'm thinking, are you going to put the cards into the bucket, or are you going to pour the water from the bucket on the cards?
Yeah.
What about the bucket?
Yeah. I love that, because obviously it was meant to be just that, to help you to remember. So bucket, and when I bring the point around bucket, I want you to remember that as leaders, we are constantly in the front, which means that potentially we could burn out. And when you think about bucket, I want you to think about 4 buckets. Your physical bucket, your emotional bucket, your mental bucket, and your spiritual bucket. These are buckets of energy. When you find that you're burnt out or you're burning out, most likely you're leaking on one or more of these buckets.
Interesting.
So physical. I start with physical because it is the container. My body is the container that carries everything. I can be as smart as anything. I need to know how to manage my body. So leaders, let's remember it's important what we do with sleep. It's important how we deal with our physical activity, exercise, our diet. Many leaders have neglected the attention that's given to the body. Now, these same humans, each one of us are mindful when we're driving and we get a signal on the dashboard that says due for servicing. And apart from a few very stubborn ones, when your car is due for servicing, you send your car for servicing. How about your body?
Good analogy.
So make time to rest, make time to take care of your body, make time to eat right. Don't get yourself stuck into something that's not going to help you. Now, the second one is got to do with your emotional bucket. Your emotional bucket is crucial because all of us are emotional beings. Yeah. In terms of emotional bucket, you're leaking on emotional bucket when you find yourself getting easily irritable. Now, things like that requires that as a leader, learn how to manage your emotions. You know, many leaders, you'd hear say about them that he's such a smart guy, but he just is unable to control his emotions. So emotional bucket requires being aware of yourself, being aware of others, being able to manage yourself, and being able to manage your relations with others.
It's interesting, Chris, that you talk about emotional bucket, because one of the subjects that we're looking to be dealing with is emotional intelligence. And that is going to be the next series of chats on Lead2Xceed. So I'm going to ask everybody to watch out for our series on emotional intelligence. So what is the third bucket, Christian?
That's your mental bucket.
Oh.
You know how it's like where you get into the office and you're sitting there trying to concentrate and you're struggling because possibly you're lacking the ability to focus on what you're doing. The buckets are related, right? So you're not sleeping enough, you will not concentrate enough, you'll struggle with focus. And so take care of your mental bucket. Yeah. Be sure that we need your mental ability to be sharp. If you're going to have to deal as a leader at high levels, you're going to go into negotiations, you're going to go into having meetings with your stakeholders, you have to understand how much your mental bucket must be filled.
Wow.
Then the last one really is your spiritual bucket. You talked about purpose. None of us really is meant to live just for ourselves. There's purpose that's meant to be bigger than us. Now, related to that, remember also the external source. As a leader, if you're not plugged in to the external source, and whatever the external source, for me, it is God. If I'm not plugged into God, and I think that it's all about black and white, it's all about what I see with my eyes, then I would be missing out on the greatest opportunity to tap into a power source that is bigger than myself.
Wow.
We all have in our houses electricity, but that electricity is not in and of itself. It connects to a bigger power source. For us as leaders, what is that power source you're connecting to? Make sure that you're building on that. You're living according to purpose. You're connecting to a spiritual source bigger than yourself. And whichever way you look at it, ultimately, be mindful of your card and your bucket.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing, Christian. It's always such a pleasure to have you on the Lead2Xceed platform talking to us. So we've got to be mindful about our card and about our bucket. Amazing, amazing, amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So our card is change, is agility, is resilience, and is the divine.
Yeah.
And there are 4 buckets. There is the physical bucket, there is the emotional bucket, there is the mental bucket, and there is the spiritual bucket. And we have to make sure that none of these buckets is leaking.
Yeah.
And also remember that these buckets require to be filled from time to time for us to continue to function well as leaders. Amazing thoughts, Christian. Thank you so much for coming on Lead2Xceed.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure, Christian. It's been such a pleasure. And as we bring this chat as well to a close, I hope that you've had the opportunity of learning some amazing things from Christian today. But if you do have any question on your mind that you would like to ask, or anything that's been triggered on your mind by this conversation, surely we've shared a few philosophical ideas on this chat. There's something that's triggered in your mind that you'd like to ask a bit more about, or there is just some subject you'd like to dig in a bit more. By all means, send us a question or shoot any comments at us via this channel, and we'll be very glad to come back to you. This has been me, Henry Baye, chatting with Christian Diaba on the Lead2Xceed chat. Lead2Xceed, inspiring leaders, multiplying impact. See you soon.